It's a common sense recap of the big stories. It's Katz and Cosby on 77 WABC.
And joining us now here on Katz and Cosby is Robert F. Kennedy Jr., independent presidential candidate. Robert, what happened here? The New York State Court said you're not a resident of New York. This seems to me to be very unusual. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it's unusual. It's unconstitutional. We understood from the beginning of this trial that we had the New York courts are highly politicized, and the DNC could not get me on it. In order to get on the ballot in New York, I had to get 45,000 signatures, which they considered insurmountable. I ended up getting 150,000, and they're validated. So the DNC could not get me off the ballot except by bringing a frivolous lawsuit by claiming that I'm not a New York resident. And as you know, I mean, I've been a New York resident since I was 10 years old. I've lived in the state for 60 years. My driver's license is in the state. My car is registered there. I voted in the state. I've never voted in any other state. My law license is there. My only law office is in New York. I pay income taxes in New York. And I intend to return to New York, which is the key indicia, after Cheryl retires. And that is, you're free to. There are cases in New York, Rita, where homeless people have been permitted to vote by claiming that a park bench is their home. So it is very loosely interpreted law. And here's what the dilemma that I face. I do have a resident in California. I have another resident in Massachusetts. And I went to my ballot access attorney, who's the best in the country, Paul Rossi, and said, here are the facts. Which one should be my resident for the purpose of ballot access? He said, you have to choose New York, and here's why. Because you have to be consistent across the country. Every state, you have to list the same domicile. And that domicile has to be the place you vote. Because, for example, in New Hampshire and many other states, the state law requires that the only domicile you can claim is the state in which you vote. So I had to take an oath in front of a notary in New Hampshire swearing that I voted in New York. So because because the only choice in many states of the state that you vote in, I had to use that across the country. And
wow.
My attorney said to me last November, he said the only place that you could, he said the DNC is going to sue you no matter what. If you say Massachusetts, if you say California, if you say New York, and you're going to end up in the same court. And the only place that you can survive on a challenge like that is New York, is by saying New York State. So that's what we put.
So, Robert, let me ask you now, do you believe, I mean, you just brought up some really powerful examples. Is this just sort of par for the course, clearly by the Democratic Party? They didn't want to give you Secret Service for the longest time. They seem to do everything they can to try to kick you off the ballot. Is this just sort of just another phase of trying to block you from being a part of this important election?
Of course, they're spending probably hundreds of millions of dollars to try to keep me off the ballot in all kinds of ways. And it's sad because, Rita, when I grew up with the Democratic Party of Robert Kennedy and John Kennedy, Martin Luther King, and they were trying to make sure that every American had the right to vote for the candidate of their choice. And there's 1 million people who have signed petitions to get me on the ballot, 1 million American voters, 150,000 in New York. And the DNC is really working against their interests to disenfranchise them, to make sure that they cannot vote for the candidate that they choose. And meanwhile, the DNC has given us 2 candidates in a row, none of whom have gotten any votes to get on the ballot. So they were both chosen by, Democratic elites, by a committee, a secretive committee, to be, and Vice President Harris has won no votes at all. Meanwhile, I've gotten more signatures than any presidential candidate in history. I've done what everybody said we could never do, which is I got enough signatures to get on the ballot in every single state.
And Robert, this is powerful. And I agree with you. You should be on these ballots. We just have about 30 seconds left. So will you appeal? What's the next step, Robert F. Kennedy?
We're going to appeal. We will definitely win. We have a federal appeal. This is a violation of the 12th Amendment. The 12th Amendment says there's only 3 requirements to be president. 1 is you're 35. 2 is you were born in this country. 3 is you're a citizen. And the states cannot add extra burdens. They do not want a patchwork of results. This is a national election. They want everybody from every state to be able to vote for who they want. And we will win this suit. There's no way that they can win. It's just a delay tactic and an embarrassment tactic, and an expense tactic. They're forcing us to spend another $10 million to defend these frivolous lawsuits, and that's the point.
Well, bravo for you for fighting this. The American public deserves to be able to have a choice on who they want to vote for, and you have a right to be there on the ballot. Robert F. Kennedy Jr., keep us posted, please.
Thanks so much, Rita.
Thank you, Robert. Thank you.